The things in the giant bear costumes won't stop handing out popcorn. Written by EaPatbp. I fucking hate the carnival. The obnoxious music that's trying way too hard to sound happy. The hundreds of colorful blinding lights. The mix of popcorn, sweets, peanuts, and sticky, sweaty children. Ugh, I hate all of it. Of course, because I hate the carnival, it makes perfect sense that I live in Point Pine, where everyone else adores it so much that there's always a carnival in town. It's like the universe wants to torture me. I'm usually able to tolerate it. I just don't go. It's the perfect plan, and so far, it's worked out exceptionally well for me. And then they added the dancing bears. They look like normal brown teddy bears with black eyes and a red bow tie. Only these are about 7 feet tall. I saw the first one in the middle of town while I was picking up groceries. It was standing outside the bakery, slowly swaying in place while that stupid carnival music played through some speakers that seemed to be located inside the costume. As I got closer to the giant dancing bear, I thought about kicking whoever had this fantastic idea right in the teeth. When I passed the bear, it held out a bucket of popcorn towards me, seemingly manifesting it out of thin air. It kept swaying as it held the bucket out towards me, staring at me with its stupid, beady eyes. Yeah, no thanks, I scoffed, pushing it aside. The bear dropped the bucket, and the popcorn spilled all over the sidewalk. Dumbass, I mumbled as I kept walking. The next time I went into town, there were 3 bears. All identical, all swaying, and all were playing the same stupid carnival music. I think the best part about this was that the music was not playing simultaneously, making the already lousy tune sound even worse, which I didn't really know was possible until now. Every time a person would pass by the bears, they would pull a bucket of popcorn out of nowhere and offer it to the bystanders. Every single idiot took it, of course, and I rolled my eyes as their stupid faces filled with joy. After about 3 days of this, the smell of popcorn was everywhere. I swear it was in my fucking skin at that point. It was nauseating. One step outside and you were hit with the smell of popcorn. It had even started to seep into my home. All I could smell was popcorn. The single semi-tolerable thing was now also ruined, which only further enforced my hatred. And still, the bears continued to multiply like bunnies. There was now one on every street corner, even the neighborhoods. The stupid carnival music could be heard everywhere in town. It was so irritating that I thought about jamming something into my ears for some relief. The next time I went out, popcorn filled the streets. It was everywhere. It looked like all of Point Pine was a popcorn machine. A popcorn machine that incessantly played carnival music. I could tell that even the other people who usually love the carnival were getting tired of it. No one was taking the popcorn anymore, and they weren't even going outside now. I was sitting in my living room trying to watch a movie and tune out the music when a scream pierced through both of those sounds and startled me. I ran to the window and looked outside where a woman was pointing down the street at one of the dancing bears and screaming. One by one, my neighbors started to come out of their homes to investigate the murderous screams, and I saw Andy Cobart take one look down the street and throw up all over his rose bushes. Seeing that piqued my interest, so I stepped out of my house out into the popcorn fumes that sat heavily over Point Pine. I walked out onto my popcorn-covered lawn and looked down the street. The giant dancing teddy bear was still there, but whoever it was under the costume had removed the head and was holding it in their hands as they danced. Oh, and the person in the costume didn't have a head. All that came out of the top of the costume was the neck, that appeared to have been sewn together at the top where the head should be. I stared at the headless dancing person as they moved the giant teddy bear head around while they swayed on the street corner. They had been out there for so long now that the carnival music was no longer happy and bubbly. Now, it was distorted and creepy. We all stood outside our homes, staring at the headless dancer at the end of the street, not knowing what to do. See, when weird things happen in Point Pine, we're usually warned about them in advance. And on the off chance we aren't warned, well, someone, or multiple someones, die. A scream erupted from the next street, signaling that the dancing bear had removed its head. Andy's husband, Marwin, walked down the street towards the bear, his feet crunching down on all the popcorn. I watched as he went up to the bear, and a bucket of popcorn appeared in midair and fell onto Marwin's head. I stiffed a laugh as he threw the bucket aside. Marwin reached over and took the bear head away from the dancer, turning it over to examine it. He shook it a few times and expected a head to fall out and roll onto the popcorn, but it appeared to be empty. Suddenly, the dancing bear reached out and grabbed Marwin's arm with one of its teddy bear arms. Marwin backed up, trying to get away, but wasn't able to.
"What the fuck, man?"
he shouted as he tried to shake the teddy bear off. Andy ran down the street towards Marwin and attempted to pry the bear away from Marwin.
"Why is this thing so fucking strong? It's a bear!"
he wailed in tears. I rolled my eyes and ran over, taking out a small pocket knife I carried in my pockets, and cutting the teddy bear's arm. The knife tore through the fabric, cutting off about 6 inches of the arm. It sliced right off though. The arm was empty. What the... Marwin grabbed the now limp piece of fabric and looked inside of it.
"They don't have arms."
He was right. Whoever was in the costume had a neck, no head, and apparently no arms. The entire arm that I had cut was now limp and flapping around as the teddy bear swayed as if all the stuffing had been taken out. I walked up to the teddy bear again and sank my knife into the chest, dragging it down a few inches. Andy gasped. I stepped back and waited, but nothing happened. I looked back at my neighbors who were fixated on the teddy bear. After a few minutes, the carnival music stopped, and the bear froze in place. I took a few steps back, and suddenly, blood began pouring out of the gash in its chest, spilling down the front of the suit and onto the popcorn on the ground. After that, chunks of stuff began to tumble out of the same gash, falling onto the popcorn with a sick splattering sound. I looked closer at the things that were spilling out of the giant teddy bear, and finally realized what it was. They were organs. Organs were falling out of the teddy bear.
"Is that a liver?"
Marwin asked. "Yep," I replied.
"And that's a heart?"
he said. "Yep."
"Lovely."
When all the inside stopped falling out of the teddy bear, it crumbled in on itself and sank to the floor, covering the popcorn like a rug.
"Is it dead?"
Someone called from behind me. I don't fucking know. At least the music stopped. We all stood in silence in the middle of the popcorn-covered road and stared at the pile of blood and organs. Andy threw up on someone else's yard, and then Marwin took him back into their house.
"Hey, look!"
I looked up to see that the dancing bear on the street corner across from ours had also fallen over. Everyone in that neighborhood simply stared at the empty bear costume. The music is stopping. I listened as the music that had been coming from the bears got quieter and quieter. It seemed that killing one of them would kill them all. I breathed a sigh of relief and immediately regretted it, as my nose filled with the smell of blood and popcorn. I coughed and gagged, but controlled myself before I started throwing up on people's property like Andy. I walked back down the street, heading towards my house. Just as I was about to step onto my porch, I felt the ground begin to shake. I held onto the stair railing and looked back just in time to hear a loud pop and see Felicity Green fall backward onto the popcorn in the street. There was a giant hole in the middle of her chest that was still slightly smoking. There was another pop nearby, and the house next door's living room window exploded.
What in the fresh hell was that?
Someone called as people ran over to Felicity's smoking dead body.
It was a colonel.
There's no way a Cornell just ripped a hole into Felicity's chest.
Well, it was a really big colonel.
Amidst the voices that were shouting at each other from across the street, there were another 2 pops. I stared at the ground intently and managed to see one Cornell pop up into the air and land a few feet away, making a crack in the sidewalk as the popcorn around the area burned up and started smoking. Now it smelled like burned popcorn. I walked back towards the street, and the closer I got, the hotter the area felt. The roads were heating up. Point Pine was now an actual popcorn machine. I backed up and headed towards my house as the popping started to increase, sending flaming hot kernels everywhere. I ran inside and locked my door, heading to my living room window and pulling the curtains back to look outside. Everyone was now in their homes, and all that was left in the street was burned popcorn and Felicity's body, which was still smoking and now appeared to be cooking from the heat that was coming from the road. I glanced down the street, where the loose organs were now beginning to move closer to each other, forming a body as each organ took its place. A new costume began to form around the organs, this time taking the shape of a circus clown instead of a teddy bear. It was wearing bright yellow clown shoes, a white and red striped outfit with blue suspenders, and a rainbow wig. The clown's face was painted white, with pink circles on the cheeks and a black diamond that surrounded each eye. The carnival music started up again, and the clown jumped up and down on the road yelling,
"Hot, hot, hot!"
every time its feet landed on the hot street. After a few minutes, it caught me staring and waved at me as its head did a 360. He skipped towards my house, stopping in front of the sidewalk, and I stared as a bucket of popcorn appeared out of nowhere, and he held it out towards me. When I didn't move, the clown dropped the bucket on my lawn, and then turned around and made his way across the street, jumping and clicking his heels together after each step, while he shouted,
"Hot, hot, hot!"
in a loud, cheery voice. He kept jumping and clicking his heels as he made his way towards Felicity.
"Hot, hot, hot!"
Jump, click,
"Hot, hot, hot!"
jump, click. Finally, he reached Felicity's body and leaned down, tearing off her entire arm with ease, and then taking a huge bite from the middle of it, bone and all. He stared at me while he ate the arm, and the carnival music slowly grew louder and louder as all the other dead bears transformed into one. I fucking hate the carnival.